I would not let the limitations of others become my own.
You are truly that maverick archetype.
My purpose is to be a conduit for other people to achieve what they desire in life and business. Make you feel seen, heard in order to act on what it is that you want to put out in the world.
For too long, entrepreneurs and business owners have been told they have to choose between profit and purpose. If you're tired of burning out, done chasing someone else's version of success, and ready to grow with more purpose, prosperity, and peace of mind, you're in the right place. Because every business has the potential to do good and do well. I'm Chase Friedman, and this is In Pursuit of Purpose, where strategy meets soul.
Kareen Zahr is a Renaissance woman. She is an incredibly inspired coach, consultant, and guide for entrepreneurs looking to scale their business with intention. She has spent nearly 2 decades building 7- and 8-figure tech and venture enterprises, both in corporate, now in entrepreneurship, leading and building and exiting her own companies. She has continued to redefine herself in her role through various seasons of life. I'm extremely honored here today to learn from her, to hear her story through the messy middle, the highs, the lows, everything in between, as she has continued to achieve success for not only herself, but helping share that as a path forward with entrepreneurs around the world. All right, Kareen, welcome to In Pursuit of Purpose. I am honored to have you here with us today. You're like the first guest of season 2, so you're welcome.
Inaugural. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, Chase.
No, as soon as we met a little bit ago, not too long ago, and immediately connected, like mind, like values. And I had the opportunity to be on your amazing podcast, All Up in Your Business.
That's right.
I try to
Let's
say
get
with a little
in
bit
it.
of flair. And again, I'm just inspired by your journey and what you have accomplished and what you do. And I want to dig into it. And as you know, this is very much about not patting ourselves on the back, but sharing the messy middle, sharing sort of the struggles and the rarely shared truths about entrepreneurship. And I know as a coach and as a founder and as a consultant, you are continuously helping many, many, many people go through that messy middle and that journey. So I want to unpack that with you today. Before we do, I want to kind of roll back to the beginning of your journey. I'm always fascinated, and you've been in a variety of different sort of roles and positions and industries. Think back to what was sort of that moment or moments where you knew that you wanted to kind of pave your own path and your own business journey and weren't ready to subscribe to someone else's version of success in running a business. So share what that kind of origin story is, if you will.
Well, the origin story actually just starts from kind of being first generation American, I guess, like coming from immigrant parents, like you are different in the group of people you're around. And so having that kind of background and then being inducted into a school environment that is so different than what's happening at home, I think you start to think a little bit different. You don't know it yet at that age, but you also just realize something's a little different here. Knowing that allowed me also to just figure out a different way of looking at things very young. So as I kind of fast forward into start of career life, or even, actually I would have a high school moment I could share where I was in the same school from like kindergarten to graduating high school, same private school, like 80 kids. It was tight knit. I'm still friends with a lot of them. They're like brothers and sisters to me. It's really rare. It's rare. One of them just visited me over the weekend. We've known each other for now 45 years, which is insane because you can really only say that about family members. But the close knit environment I had, by the time I hit like 9th grade, I was so done. I wanted change of environment. There was a lot of turmoil happening at home. So I realized too that my fight or flight response is more of a flight in me. I'm like, let's just change the environment and then maybe things will change within or around me. And so I tried to look for other schools, or at least that's my mom, could we consider it? And so she teased me a little bit and said yes. And we went and I got to tour these other schools. I picked one I wanted to go to. And she's like, I want you to stay in the same school for at least one more year. And let's see how it goes in high school. And then maybe we'll consider at the end of the year, if you're still not happy, that you could change. And I was like, okay, great. So I got through my freshman year of high school. I still wanted the change. It was the same, day in, day out. Education was great, but like environment, bored with. And then she said, well, sorry, you're going to have to finish school out in this school. And I was like deflated and felt lied to, but then also was like, okay, this is my circumstance. So what am I going to do about it? So in ninth grade, literally, I was like, well, if I can't change schools, I'm going to change the school I'm in. And I ran for class president, and I was the first female class president to win that year. And I basically started to change the environment of the school and took lead, right? Like I stepped into a leadership role to do whatever I could in that environment to make it better, not only for me, but for others, and have it something that I could tolerate while getting through the next few years of high school. So I was class president for 2 years straight. I went sophomore and junior year.
Wow.
And I shifted the energy. And I'll tell you that to this day, the administration of that school talks about our class as like the most unique and different class that ever came through that school time frame, like through all the years. They still talk about those that are still alive and there. But it's so long ago. But that's an example of like, where did it start? So taking that like gumption or courage or inner responsibility started young. So when I started my career life, that was interesting. I went to GW for college. I got a business degree that mimicked the MBA as an undergrad. So I really got amazing skill set on how to deliver within corporate environments, leveraging tools, skills, and acumen of bringing people together through my undergrad program. And then I decided, you know what? I'm just going to move to California when I graduated. Didn't know anybody really. I was very much into knowing that if I went back up to New York, where I grew up, I would never leave. So I was like, this is my opportunity to go west. I had visited San Francisco once. I was like, and I knew that the tech game was starting back then. And I was like, well, more opportunity for someone my age with my acumen and also exploration. I definitely obviously have a seeker in me. Let's just go figure it out. So I started my career in San Francisco, initially with a really large bank because I had some connections. I network. I always go into any new environment, see who I can meet, connect with them. How can I add value? And I managed to get a full-time job as a systems analyst. And I'll tell you, I have like zero computer knowledge, right?
Fake it till you make it.
It was one of those, like I had the aptitude, and the woman of the VP of the group that was hiring me asked if, certain questions. I had the acumen. So I was like, I'll figure it out. I had the willingness. I think the willingness in me and the courage to figure it out was one of the things that I leveraged a lot in those years. So I took that job, worked really hard, almost did too much. Like I kept saying yes, because I was a bit of a people pleaser, but also just wanted that check. I was like, I'm willing to do whatever it took to survive out there because I only went out with $5,000. I sold what I could. I got graduation money and I was like, let me figure it out. And then about 9 months into it, management shifted and I had built out their business resumption plans, meaning like if systems failed, like who am I and what experience did I have at that time to be the one that mapped out the process when systems fail.
A veteran systems specialist.
But here's the process, right? Like that's how hard I worked to figure it out, find the solution, make it happen, take on be of value. Like that's what I was taught. Be of value and you will be rewarded. So then about 9 months into that, a new manager came in. I was very excited because I had really had no guidance whatsoever from my management team up to this point. I was winging it, which we do in the career life. It happens.
I'm going to pause you for just a second because
Please.
You have already in your just beginning chapter have already echoed pretty much every theme or value I have ever heard about the spirit of a disruptor, of a maverick, of an entrepreneur. I mean, from high school. And again, for those who have been an entrepreneur or founder or not, if you have some of these skills and these qualities.
Yeah.
You took a situation that wasn't working for you and you changed the situation,
yes.
Right? You stepped up and you couldn't control the circumstances of going to a different school, but you could control the circumstances of how you showed up in that school and clearly changed it for the better. I mean, they probably have your name and your face painted on the gym or something like that. The Kareen gym. So the fact that you changed your circumstances because you knew that the status quo wasn't working for you, you had this, and I think, I've got it and a lot of us have it, this sort of restless nomadic quality where you uprooted your life from everything you knew, everyone you knew, and moved across the country to a completely new city, took a completely new job that you had no experience in, right? But you had the trust and conviction within yourself. I'm going to make this work, right? I'm going to relinquish everything I knew and what I had and make this work and hustle for it. Creating something from nothing in terms of these protocols and these systems, right? Like, so I'm going through this in my head, and it is amazing because, it might seem like just your natural journey to you, but these are the things that I think everyone needs to realize, that if you feel or have this conviction, whether your story looks the same or not, these are clear indicators that will inevitably put you on the path that you are meant to be on. You talked about this on your podcast, those 10X moments. You've already had like 3 or 4 of them, and you're not even into like
I know a lot happened by
of your journey so far, right? Just
But
let me
it's
just
the
wipe the
foundation.
entire slate clean and double down on something new.
Yeah. But it's the foundation, right? Because what ended up happening with this particular situation is that I hit another limit that I refused to let make my story. So I never let this particular moment of this particular job literally shifted me to dial up into more of an entrepreneurial spirit in everything I do, whether I'm in a corporate environment as an executive, or I'm an entrepreneur running my own business, or I'm helping someone else in theirs as a coach advisor, from this specific moment where I would not let the limitations of others become my own. So in that school environment, that was a limitation, but I couldn't let it limit me. So I maximized what I could do in that system. In my corporate life, if I can't climb, if I can't figure out the next, if I can't add value, continue to add value and grow, I will move on to the next thing. And I hit a glass ceiling at 24. 24, finding a limitation at the start of your career, no thank you. I was like, and it started to affect my health. Chase, you wanted the background nitty gritty. I was in the ER because of this job, because of the stress, because of the way I took on everything. My body started to shut down, and my body will always tell me what's going on, whether or not I listen to it. That is my problem. That is the problem I had to face many years later because it was crippling. That it was
in spite of what seemed like success, though. But
100%.
To that point, it was, correct me if I'm wrong, but success in the wrong direction or misalignment with what you were wanting to be doing, right? Like, you clearly achieved success at every challenge along the way, but this was taking a toll because it wasn't aligned with where you wanted to be and where you wanted to go?
It was because in order to be successful, I had to tolerate too much dysfunction.
Gee, does that sound familiar to anyone else?
I know. I always tell people, like, I trained myself to be highly functional in dysfunction. I wanted an exit, but that's why I share the high school example. I wanted to exit what felt very dysfunctional, but I couldn't. So I had to make it functional because I could not control the environment. I was too young. I was in someone else's household. As I became an adult, and as I started to make my own independent path, and look how extreme it was. I had to go all the way across the country to California to find my independence, to figure out how do I function on my way. But I was so highly embedded to be functional in my dysfunction that I took on more and I did more, and I just wanted to be seen. And the increments in pay were okay. Success would look good from the outside of the accolades of like, yeah, I'm a good doer. Great. But if it's crumbling on the inside, then that is not a success measure that works for me. And so the way I cerebrally, like in my mind, would be like, no, this place is limiting my funds. So here's the thing in my 20s. If you mess with my money, if you mess with my money today too, we're going to have issues. But in my 20s, I was on such a climb to find financial security that if I saw a blocker to my money, I would make something happen. But if I saw an issue with my health, I tolerated it. So that was a very interesting learning distinction for me in those years, which shifted obviously over time and where we are today.
At that time of your life, was that the frame of definition of success for you? I think it shifts within different seasons of our lives. I'm curious to kind of understand that now, because as you're going to continue to share your evolution, I'd love to know how that definition of success then has evolved over time.
Yeah. So back then, so in my 20s, it was really about trying to find financial security, do whatever it takes to make however much I can so that I can have choices for myself. Because without financial security, or what I felt defined as financial security back then, it's different now, but like it just meant that I did not have to depend on anyone else, that I could stand on my own 2 feet, that I could afford whatever choices I wanted to make. And it required me to push and just be 100% career focused. So my health was not great. My relationships were even worse. And it made great sense. And I looked amazing on paper, and in my career life, everyone probably thought I was doing really great in my personal life, but it's because, you wear the mask, you know how to put the veil on to show up for the job you have. And that was what my 20s were all about. So the shift, though, didn't really happen until later, where it became more aligned and more interconnected within me, that my health matters, how I feel about myself matters. And I can still create financial security from that place. But if I didn't prove it to myself, what I was capable of in my 20s, which was a lot, because once I hit that glass ceiling, I then resigned from that position because there was no growth path in what that was. And I made sure that the value of the next company I joined, that growth was a big part of it. So the company I joined next, my career in that company was like no other. Within every 6 months, I was getting promoted. There was team building. I got to live between San Francisco and New York. Eventually, by the time I was 27, I all of a sudden was senior director of mergers and acquisitions, taking over companies in Denver. Like I was all over the place, really career focused, and putting everything on full tilt in order to then get as much of the skill set and milk as much as I could out of that system.
What was that's interesting. Clearly like a moonshot in terms of ascension professionally, and I'm sure financially as well.
Yes.
Hitting that goal.
Yeah.
I'm curious, in that time, did you develop certain non-negotiables that you had learned from your first position that you knew you had to have in this business, in this role? Were you better at protecting and setting up boundaries for what was going on inside at this stage?
It was better because the environment was better. Like the ability to dialogue within the company as it was growing. It was a very unique situation. I would call it a startup now. It wasn't called a startup then, where the environments allow for some like wild, wild west leadership style, creation. Like everything was kind of being created for this particular division of the company that I had joined. And so I had more autonomy to dictate how my work life would go. And what I did to create more freedom for myself was I started virtual practices before virtual was even a term people used. I never wanted to be tied to my desk so that I could have that flexibility of if I wanted to go to the gym or if I did want to work from home. Back then, we're talking like dial-up days. Like I know I look young, but I got some decades on me now.
No, you are truly that maverick archetype. You are going to write your own rules, write your own story, no matter the circumstances.
That's right. Yeah. And so I was lucky that this particular environment allowed me to, and that they saw and trusted in what I actually brought to the table, because I did a lot. I was one of two, other than the C-suite, director level females in a tech company. It was a fintech company at the time too. So it was a very male dominated, very aggressive, because it was finance and technology. The bro code was real. So it was really cool to be able to navigate and figure out those skills as well. But again, I don't think I really mastered how to take care of myself or kind of do the inner work probably until my early 30s, and it's, the evolution to now, because there's always that work happening.
So how was the definition of success and progress evolving or changing for you, right? Or what beliefs did you have to, about yourself, gain or unlearn about your former self to kind of take that next leap, right? At this point, were you ready to just step into running your own business, running your own show? And what was that mindset shift that occurred that allowed you to do that?
Yeah. So at that time, success for me was money in the bank and making sure I had the freedom to choose, but also that I was growing in my career, that I was acquiring new skills, that I had impact, that I was a leader. Around 29, my company at the time had moved me to Denver when I was 28, moved me to Denver to take over the company, one of their acquisitions. And I did from head to toe. It was going to be the next best thing. I moved there. I had to let go of my New York place. Like, it was just a shift in lifestyle, which I was welcoming because I kind of wanted to slow down. And Denver was a slower than the bi-coastal life I was living. And 6 months into it, shift happened with the company where they were going to shut down all remote offices. And I, at 20, I was 28, was responsible for shutting down that office, keeping operations running, and moving everybody or the operation to San Francisco. When that news hit me, I was devastated that I had to move back to San Francisco where I did not want to live anymore. And it was really hard work to have to go lay off half the company. I used to straighten my hair like this because I have really big curly hair, but I used to straighten my hair to put on a different persona to go through a layoff process so that that's not the real me. I would, I wouldn't want to affect someone's life like that, but I had to still do it for the job. So success at that time, I realized, okay, Kareen, you're doing all these things. And yes, you're making this company successful by doing all these things. And yes, there's money in the bank, but you're kind of feeling disconnected and empty again on the inside. So I think you're coming to terms with the term of this employment path here. Because when I got to San Francisco, I still followed through on the commitment. And I had to take over another company, merge those two companies together. And that was my final year with this particular company where there was no other career. When I look upwards, I was like, I don't want to be any of these people. That's not success to me. The C-suite in this company, and that was the trajectory I was on. I was like, doesn't fit. It's not going to work. And I've proven to myself I have capable skills. I'm going to resign, and I'm going to go figure it out in Colorado. And I actually bought a house while I was still employed so that I had a place to land that would only cost me maybe like a fourth of what I would earn, because at the time housing was affordable in Denver. It's not anymore. And then I resigned, got to Colorado, and then that's when I started my first basically consulting company and start to work for myself. And the goals at that point were different. Success to me at that point was have to focus on my health. Had to get my mental health together, had to get my physical health together. And I really wanted relationship. Like I really wanted to start the family side of my life or the commitment side. And I hadn't put any time into that at all. So the beauty of working for myself, which my consulting was just me self-employed for the next 5 years. That was my first company or venture, was really great because I could go in and out of contracts and I made the same money. I made the same money working less and then building more of my life. And it was a great shift for my 30s to step into. So success to me at that point was really about feeling more aligned on the inside, feeling more nurtured and taken care of as much as I could, while also making sure I had the financial means to do it.
That you could have both and you deserved both and you had earned that right? That you could do good and do well for yourself, right? On paper, financially, but also in here, more aligned with, your health and the lifestyle you wanted to lead. So this is I think where a lot of people get stuck is that leap, right? Especially when they get to a level that seems like you were at. You had the success, you had the upward mobility, you were sort of destined for that C-suite position, that corner office, right? That sort of, dangling carrot or golden handcuffs, and yet you decided to walk away from it. So for those that are stuck or struggling, which I know you coach a lot of these people in that moment, what is it they should be asking of themselves, right? To know when or how or where to make that pivot. Now, that might not be everyone's journey, right?
That's right.
Not everyone might want that. So what do people need to consider when it comes to a crossroads, an inflection point around, everything I thought I knew and measured as success is right there in front of me, but maybe I'm ignoring some things and parts of myself that are out of alignment, versus I got to take this leap of faith now and double down on myself. How do we navigate?
We tend to forget is that we are the common denominator in all areas of our life, right? And so because we are masters at compartmentalizing who we are and how we have to show up in each area, I think that creates a fatigue and almost like an atrophy around what is it that I really want, and how do I want to show up in this world? You know, you talk about purpose a lot on your show, and you try to get to the core of the purpose as to why we show up in that way and put ourselves in certain environments. We get, I think, a little bit stale in our approach if we're not looking at things a little bit more holistically, to say, like, every time I set my goals for each year, or I look into what it is that I want to accomplish, because I'm very driven, obviously. Like, in order to accomplish something, you have to have a target, you have to have a destination in order to map your action towards. A lot of the times, if we're stuck in the same, like the identity that we form for ourselves, but we're not feeling connected to it, like that, I think, is the first signal to say, have I checked in on all areas of my life? And am I showing up in the way that lights me up around all of it? You know, because it's where we can get confused or even overwhelmed if what we desire is so big, but yet we have no idea what it means to even inch towards it, because we haven't taken the time to pause, assess, plan, and then act, which is what I, show my clients to do all the time.
Well, I think what you just said is you reflected on your goals. And I've just recently spoke about this in another episode around, we don't give ourselves the time or the patience to stop and pause and act and reflect on what it is we want, what we're building for, right? Even if we're running our own business, and we're probably most guilty. We just start building. We just start kind of pursuing growth and scale at all costs. But rarely do we ask, what is it all for?
Yeah.
What am I building for? And how do I build a business that serves my life and lifestyle versus the other way around?
Right.
What are some of those questions that you coach your clients in asking of themselves, right? How do we get them unstuck to kind of see clearly or, consider these things for the first time?
Yeah. So I leverage my Evolve method with my clients, which is it's a 6-part process. And the first step, the first E of Evolve, is to evaluate. Like, where are you today? What's going really well? What do we need to stop doing that's not aligned with it? What do we need to start doing? And it's an exercise I actually do with my Hey Kareen community every month. And so it's something that allows you to have that pause, to be but with very distinct questions, so that this way you're like pausing with intention in order to have a forward motion that feels aligned. And I always kick off my clients with that first step, because it gets us into the present moment of, like, where are we right now? Then I go through the V. The first V in Evolve is all about visualization. When's the last time you actually checked in on the vision of what it is that you want? Because most of the time we have these grandiose things, but we haven't really said, is that what I still want? Year after year, I've seen so many clients and work with clients who had these target goals on numbers, but didn't take reality into check of being like, well, how did you actually perform up to date? Like, what did you learn? And are those numbers realistic? Why do we have this pie in the sky?
And did they ever ask themselves, okay, I've set this goal, but why this goal?
Yeah.
Why is it this number or this milestone, right? Because it's easy to set that, but are we asking, well, why do I need that? And why is that the measure of success?
Yeah. And then the deeper question, which is the O part of the Evolve method, is who do you have to become to lead it? Own it. Like, O is for own it. Because that is the introspective question that I think everybody forgets, where they put targets out in the future and then they're like, yeah, but then what do I have to grow into to make that happen? And is that actually the role I want to play? Or what if I take that, say I'm not the one actually doing anything? It's the way, honestly, Chase, it's the way I made 7 figures of my own business the first year, was that I got out of my own way because I didn't want to be the one doing it. You can easily make 7 figures charging $500 an hour, working 40 hours a week. Up at the point when I decided to escalate my revenue streams, I decided, I put the goal in front of me because that number wasn't exciting to me anymore. But it was exciting if I said, I want to earn 7 figures only using 10% of my time. So then I was like, because I want the 90% of my time to be doing other things for that specific business. And that shift in the strategic focus made me face myself. Who did I have to become in order to only work 10% in that business? Who did I need on my team, to ensure that that revenue stream would be met? And that became more important to me, to have that target number hit. Because yes, I was earning 7 figures in my business, the revenue stream, my income was the same. I didn't say I wanted 7 figures of income. I don't need that. Like, I mean, yes, could I make that? Yes. Do I need it? No, not for the lifestyle I want. I can definitely live off way less. And I was very realistic about that at that time. But I wanted my same income without having to do the level of effort to earn
Different circumstances, right?
Exactly.
You were building sort of different circumstances in reality where, again, you can have both. You can have the life that you in balance you had been seeking
Yep.
and still achieve that. Could you have ever gotten that at the position or the track that you were previously on?
Only work 10% of my time and
It's
earn
kind of a
what
rhetorical,
I did.
right? It's
Yeah.
like knowing you're
No.
working for another corporation as an employee. Could you have been making that amount of money if you said, you know what, I'm only going to work 10%, right? And I'm going
Now
to
would be
focus
allowed.
on me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so we're at O, so evolve. What's the L?
So the L then is, so we're at EVO. The L is about leverage. So the L leverage means now that you know where you're trying to go, what are we going to leverage to help you get there? So your offer breakdown, the business model itself, like ensuring that the business is actually sound, something for us to leverage to go achieve that vision. That's what leverage is about. And then the next V is validate. Validate takes the offers and we test it in the market. We have to validate that it actually works, that people want to buy it, that it's a model that you want to duplicate and can scale. So that's the validate part. And then E, the final E, is all about your exit. That's the number one thing people don't think about as entrepreneurs is how do I get myself out of this? Because as entrepreneurs, we always want to move on to the next. Like, what else? What next? What next? What next? And we don't think about our exit enough. And it could literally be an exit of your role from operator to owner. It could be an exit of the actual company. I want to sell this thing off. It could be that the exit is it dies with me. But at least we know when we're building the business, when we go through the full evolve method, that we understand the true end game so that we can actually build the scalable models to help you achieve it. And it's cyclical.
Okay.
Every year, Chase. Every year, a company should be going through the evolve methodology, right?
Yeah.
Like every
it's
year.
not a set it and forget it sort of deal.
No, it's cyclical development. It's cyclical growth. If you want to see shifts continuously happening in your business, you have to have a cyclical process of how you're actually building and running your business. And people just think, oh, I'm going to just do more, or I'm going to get more leads. I'm going to create a new offer. But they're not looking at the holistic part of how do you actually own this business and really take it to fuel your life, right? That's why it's called evolve, because it's continuously developing over time.
Where do you see most entrepreneurs get stuck or struggle with most in that paradigm, right? Is there a certain portion of that where there becomes a bottleneck or there becomes sort of they're neglecting one of those elements?
Generally, when they come to me, it's because they're wanting clarity to move forward. And so the struggle has been in play. And going through this method, it's really the clarity that comes out of it and the ability to like now jump into action tends to be the result. I think there are challenges is the own it part, is the change of behavior. It's the, I now want to really step into this role, but I fall back into what I know and I don't know how to lead. I think leadership is probably the biggest challenge I see most entrepreneurs facing because they haven't had enough experience knowing how to build and scale teams and figure out the people management of things, which is a struggle for most people in the process too. You know, you want to hire slow and fire fast, but that's a skill set. And not many people have that if they're just starting out as entrepreneurs. I was fortunate because I did it in corporate for so many years. Then I have a whole recruitment side to my business to help source the right fit for the right clients, you know, after I've worked with them. But that's what I would say the biggest challenges are is how to actually lead the business that you've built and take yourself out of it as the one that's doing it all. Because time and time again, I've seen that with my entrepreneurs.
So as you're guiding, I mean, I'm sure people at all stages and you're coaching them through this process. Do you ever think about what's the one piece of guidance or wisdom that you would have received earlier on in your career? If you would have kind of tapped to the younger Kareen and said, hey, and the coach you kind of needed or wanted back then, what would that wisdom look and sound like?
For the entrepreneur in me or the Kareen, the person? I'll give you both.
if it's two separate answers and you can have two answers to it.
I just think about the younger version of me, Kareen. The person needs to have more fun. I was so serious. Oh my gosh. Like I was so just focused. And I mean, and it was probably the push through pain, model like in my 20s that and not that I didn't have my fun. I mean, I had my fun, but I was more like more fun could have been had. I feel like not to take it all so seriously and kind of the trust in my resourcefulness will always win, because I'm still making these big shifts today, Chase, like just like you moving to another country. I've moved across this country in the US like over, I don't know, like 14 times. Like I should have owned a moving company, by now I would have had some crazy dollars, but still it's in me. Like I'm resourceful in that way. And I think if I could have trusted more of myself through different decisions, that maybe wouldn't feel so volatile sometimes.
I think we talked about this previously in another conversation, kind of the element of surrender, right? And to me, that sounds like trusting yourself, surrender to what you are capable of doing and being, knowing that you will figure it out, you will be resourceful. And I love the fun part. I like to say, well, to myself and to my kids, like find the magic. Right?
Yeah.
We get so caught up in the day to day. And I do believe that, like, it sounds flighty, but to make us perform better in all aspects of our life and business, you've got to be finding the fun and finding the magic. Otherwise, you're going to burn out or just break down on the inside.
On the inside, yeah.
And how often do we really remind and pause and slow down and give ourselves the opportunity to kind of have that fun and find the magic? Okay, so if that's the personal side, is there on the entrepreneurial side?
Yeah. I wish I had learned the method of ownership, because that came later for me, the first time around that I built my business. Because in my 30s, I had started my self-employment, and it was just kind of my way of being employed still, that I went back to corporate when I moved back east, because I had gotten engaged. I moved back east and to try the marriage thing and build the family and all the things. And then I went back into corporate because I felt that was easier, which it was, than the hustle and the competitiveness of consulting in the New York area, that I got back into leadership and launching new startups, etc. If I had learned more about owning my business and what it meant to scale past myself younger, then my portfolio of companies right now would, I think, been so different. And I didn't learn it really until I had scaled my business. So to that almost 10 years ago, where I scaled past myself and then now have had the tenure of running business as an owner. So I think that would be the lesson that I would want to learn if I could. And that's why I always try to share with my entrepreneurs, how do we move you into an owner role? Because I know you're going to want to move on to something next. An entrepreneurial spirit does not get held in a cage, and you don't want to create a job out of your company. It's your company. Right. You're choosing this. So I think if I had learned that sooner, it would have been a whole different playing field right now.
That sounds like kind of the O in your evolve method, right? It's kind of having to change a bit of your identity.
Yes.
To evolve into that ownership role.
Yeah, and understand what that means, because self-employment is very easy to step into, and it's a viable income stream. I'm not knocking it, but if you really want sustainability and you want your financial security again, which is what I look for, and the investable dollars, the output of what that business can churn for you, to own it is a different method of thinking around what you're building.
So let me ask you this. Now at this season of life, you've seen some things.
Yeah.
You've seen some things. You built some companies. You coached a lot of people. How are you in this current season balancing doing good and doing well for yourself, right? The on paper, financially achieving things you want to achieve in business, and doing well for yourself, more kind of internally and leading the life and the lifestyle that you want to be leading.
Yeah, I'd say I'm still in a shift mode, in a transition mode, and I'm discovering now this version with all my learnings. What do I want to produce and create? So most first and foremost is always now like is my health, my inner dialogue. My mental health is very important to me, and my rituals around that. My physical health is very important to me, and the ability to invest in that is top of mind. And so I look at business structuring or financial investments, investing in other companies now, and trying to figure out where the multipliers are without compromising putting myself first. And that is a different lens at this stage. And my hustle is different because I will hustle hard on something I'm super clear on, but I am way more patient now than I ever was to fully bake a vision of what an outcome would be before I start doing. And that I would say is a big shift for me, because I used to have an idea and be like, bam, it's out there. Look, another idea.
I get it. Show me if it's working.
Like this
Prove it.
aggressive, like, oh my gosh, if I don't, I'm going to waste time, lose time. Now I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let me marinate on that for a minute. Let me see who else might want to be involved in this, so it's not just me. Like, I ask different questions now as new concepts come up or new businesses to partner with, et cetera, that it feels more graceful. You know, we were talking about that too around surrender and grace. Like there's this, I'm nurturing myself more to nurture whatever it is that I want to get involved with, you know? And that's a big shift for me at this stage in my tenure of career life. But more so it shows up in my development, my like personal development and how I approach life. And I think that's really key. And it requires just giving yourself the time and space to do it, you know, which is a luxury these days.
It is. And I'm sure you're coaching, you know, your clients to do the same. We're really good at coaching others. And sometimes we forget to do it for ourselves. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad to hear that you kind of are finding that patience and that grace. We always have to kind of remind one another, right, that we deserve.
Yeah.
So in closing, the last question I like to ask everybody, it's kind of a summation of exactly where we've just been.
Okay.
But what do you feel is your purpose?
You know, I sit with that a lot because I know the guidance of your show. And I find that when I answer the question, I feel like my purpose is to be a conduit for other people to achieve what they desire in life and business. I've always seen myself as like a connector. I'm like a give permission to show up in all versions of yourself and be loved for it. My purpose is truly, like, one of my core values is love and integrity and creativity. But the love first, like, I always want everyone that I exchange with to feel seen and know that they are cared for, even if it's just in that small exchange moment with me, that they feel that. So there's always this exchange happening. And the best way for me to describe it is that my purpose is to be the conduit for you to feel what's meant for you, is how I find my purpose these days.
It's beautiful. I love it. And thank you for sharing the journey, the ups, the downs, the messy middle, as we like to say. So I hope this resonated with everyone that's listening. And I'm sure a lot of people want to find a little bit of that grace for themselves. How can people learn more about you? How can they work with you? Get into this evolve process, which I want to dive right into myself.
Yes, I would love that.
Give us a little plug.
Yeah, so all things Kareen are at heykareen.com. So HEYKAREEN. And Hey Kareen AI is also available for you to download my app and just dialogue with me in the AI version to get coached through whatever it is you're going through. It was a labor of love to put that together and just make sure everyone had the support they needed on the go. I am on Instagram. You want to see like behind the scenes of my life and all the sweaty in the middle hot messness, because I share workouts. I share, just follow me on Insta. It's at the real Kareen Z. And obviously on a professional level, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or message me directly. As I said, I am a conduit. I love to help people achieve what they want. So just reach out. If you have a question, ask it. That's the number one thing I think people hesitate on. So I just want to encourage everyone listening to go and ask your questions. You do not have to be in it alone. There is someone who has gone before you that can show you how, but mostly lend an ear and make you feel seen, heard in order to act on what it is that you want to put out in the world. Your gifts are needed. So please reach out if I can help you put them out there.
Amen. I appreciate you sharing this with us, and I appreciate you giving us the permission, right, to ask that
thank
of
you.
ourselves. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chase. I love our conversations.
I appreciate you tuning in today. I hope this brought you a bit of confidence, clarity, and conviction on your business journey. If something here resonated, do me a favor, leave a quick review or share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. It goes a long way in helping more people find the show and start their own journey. And as always, you'll find all the resources and ways to connect with me in the show notes. Now, go take that next step in building the business you've been dreaming of. Wishing you continued purpose, prosperity, and peace of mind.